So today on 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, 22/8/22, beautiful date. We come to the close of a 16-year-long Savitri Yajna. If we take away the 2 years of Corona, then 14 years. It's a tremendous journey with Savitri. And in a way, yesterday we have gone line by line the last bit yesterday, the last few lines. So today we just take up a quick, brief summary of what Savitri is about. Of course, much has been spoken and written, and much will be spoken and written. Savitri is endless, infinite, limitless. So no series of talks throughout our lives can ever give us a glimpse of what Savitri is in its magnificence, majesty, beauty. It is all the sons of mantric poetry, the son of truth, the son of beauty, the son of power, the son of bliss, the son of harmony, all that is here. And it's my feeling that no human tongue can really utter or speak about what Savitri is, and whatever little any of us are able to see, have a glimpse or speak and share is only and only and only due to her grace. With this little background, we come to the basic summary of Savitri. The outline of the story is just as it is in the Mahabharata, when in one Parv, Yudhishthir goes through the forest. They have been sent to the forest because they have lost the game of dice. And Yudhishthir asks Rishi Markandeya, is there anyone as pious and as unfortunate as Draupadi? See. And then the sage Markandeya says that, well, in far back times, so that far back times is the Vedic cycle, there was one who was as pious, as unfortunate, and yet she mastered destiny, mastered fate. She turned her misfortune into a song of victory. And then it narrates the story of Savitri. And the story as narrated is very simple. King Ashwapati is a yogi. He leads his life spending in yajna and yoga and those pursuits. And he is childless. So once he and his wife, whose name is not mentioned here, but Malvika. So the two together, they want to have a child, because that's the way kings have to continue. And Ashwapati performs a yajna, special yajna, and he is otherwise in the worship of the Divine Mother. And finally, as a result of this long yajna, Divine Mother appears to him and blesses him that she will come to his home. Now, there are some variations of the story. There was a son and a daughter, but we should not get lost into needless details. So, the Divine Mother comes to his home as Savitri. Savitri, as we know, is the sun which emerges out of the darkness. She is also the mother of the Vedas. If we go back to the Vedic times, so her name is very significant. So, on one side, we say Vedas have come out of the four mouths of the Brahman, but that is the mouth, the conduit, the instrument, but the origin is in Savitri, who is the mother of the Vedas. That's how she is described. And so Savitri comes down, and as she grows up, she develops many sights, many faculties, masters arts and sciences, the lore of the yogis. She herself is a tapaswini. So no suitor comes near her. You see, it's a very interesting story that all the suitors reject themselves because none can match her. So father Ashwapati, when she comes of age, says, you go and find for yourself. And she goes all the way, takes a long journey, and in the forest of the Shalva forest, she discovers, she comes upon Satyavan. As we know in the story also, he is the son of King Dumatsena, whose child, who has lost his kingdom, lost his eyes, And though he is a prince, he is in the forest, wandering and gathering sticks and running the household. So Savitri knows inwardly that he is the right person. They get married in what was known earlier as Gandharv Vivaha, where there is no sanction of either parents. Nobody talks to either parents, but the son is the witness. So this was one of the 6 forms of valid Vedic marriages. There were 2 which were invalid out of 8 types of marriages. This was one of the 6 forms. One of them was, this was a Gandharv Vivaha, where man and a woman, they decide, or a boy and girl, and nobody is there either to sanction or a witness, but the divine is there, the son is the witness. So they get married and she comes back. When she comes to the palace, she sees Narada, the celestial sage who can go anywhere, is there having a converse with Ashwapati and his queen. And quite naturally, it's a moment when the king asks him to reveal her fate. She has just got married. So what about this betrothal? What does he have to say? And he says everything is wonderful, but after 1 year he is going to die. Satyavan is going to die. So quite naturally the queen and king for a moment hesitate, but then they give in to Savitri's steadfast choice. She says, I stay with my choice. And then they get married. Savitri goes to live in the hermitage, where she spends most of her time in inwardness, in pursuit of yoga. But during the last 3 days, when the day of death comes near, she engages in a kind of 3 Ratri Vrat. She undertakes a 3-day, 3-night fasting and engages herself in intense, one-pointed concentration. So Dyumat Sena tells her that don't do something like this. This is a very difficult thing you are trying. But then he also concedes. He says, no, I am doing it for the well-being of everyone. She doesn't reveal what is the secret. Then after 3 days, for the first time, she asks them that I want to go to the forest with Satyavan because I have never seen the place. And then she travels to the forest with Satyavan. Death first sends at the fated hour his Yamduts. So these angels of death, terrible angels. So they come and they run away. They say, we can't go near her. She has tremendous light and force around her and we can't even approach her. So Yama himself comes and there is a bit of tussle. Then eventually he takes the soul of Satyavan and Savitri chases, follows him. Initially he discourages, then a dialogue ensues. And in dialogue, step by step, Savitri reveals to Yama that how it is her dharma to come here. So though there is the law of death that somebody will die. See, this was the paradox of the dharma in Savitri's story. One who is born must die. And there is a fated hour. So he's come to take. That's how Yamaraj justifies himself. I can't help it. It's written in the book of destiny. I have come to take. Savitri says, all right, that may be your dharma. But my dharma is to stand by the one whom I love. Can you refute it? He says, no. So now this is the tussle that goes on. He says, well, you have done something which is extraordinary. You have stayed by your dharma. So I will give you boons. So she asks boons for Satyavan's father's sight and kingdom. This is the first boon she asks. So he says, okay, ask me another boon, but don't ask me about Satyavan. Any other boon you can ask. So she says, I want so many offsprings for my father-in-law and mother-in-law. He says, granted. So third boon, there are 3 boons. He says, you can ask me one more boon. But this time he fails to mention, as the story, except Satyavan. So that is the moment Savitri says, I want 100 offsprings for me and Satyavan. Now he is caught in a dilemma. He can't have offsprings while he is there. See, these 100 offsprings that we hear are the new energies which emerge out of the union of 2 beings. That's what Santan literally means. It's an extension of consciousness. So he is caught in a dilemma, but eventually he understands that he has been trapped, so to say, and he concedes, and Satyavan returns back. And when they come back, suddenly there is news that the minister who had usurped the kingdom, he is dead. So they come to invite him to reclaim the kingdom, and his sight has also returned. So all is happy and beautiful and harmonious forever. So people often ask, so what happened thereafter? Well, Savitri and Satyavan lived on. Satyavan left his body at 400 years. So it was not like a physical immortality. That we must understand. That is for later. But it was that the law of love prevails over the law of death. This is one thing which is very evident in the story, and that's what is revealed here. Conjugal love conquering death. So there is the law of death. It follows its own course. Fate follows its own course. But beyond death, beyond fate, there is a still greater power which Savitri has embodied, and that is love. So this is the story in its essence. It was not about physical immortality. That was not even the subject at that point of time. So this story, basic outline is the same, but Sri Aurobindo has filled many things which are there as gaps and expanded it. So what has he filled? For example, what is the kind of practice that Ashupati was engaged in? What kind of prayer he was doing to Divine Mother? What kind of meditation? What kind of yoga? So we have the long passages where Ashupati's yoga is revealed, and through that almost the entire universe is revealed. So we'll see that as we enter into the books. Similarly, what kind of yoga did Savitri undertake? 3 nights, 3 days of Vrat. So that again, Sri Aurobindo expands into the book of yoga, and all that is filled there. Now it is missing in the story. It's not, he is not putting something else, but filling the gaps which are there. Then of course the dialogue with death also is taken to its utmost levels. What is death? Where does it originate from? What really is the debate? And in the story it's indicated that Yama in a way undergoes a kind of conversion into dharma. So he has made a law which is binding over him and binding over earthly beings, but he concedes to a greater law. So it's an evolutionary story. There are plenty of such stories in Indian thought which are evolutionary in their meaning. So here there is an evolution. Yama, who binds everybody, that's his task. Yam literally means restrainer. But the restrainer releases. So it's a paradox. So why does he release? Because there is a greater power, love. So that's how the story goes. And Sri Aurobindo takes this again to its utmost possibilities. But most of all, what Sri Aurobindo does as an addition, after these boons, immediately Savitri doesn't return back with Satyavan. Why? Because that is the beginning of the project. Savitri is in far back times an incarnation of the Divine Mother. And it's not the first time, as the Mother herself says, I have never left the earth since its inception. Whenever and wherever there was the possibility of manifesting a ray of consciousness, I was there. So she has been there in many, many forms and names. So one of them was as Savitri. All these were partial manifestations. Why was the Divine Mother coming? Because she is the one who impelled the Ishvara to, engage into creation. This whole creation belongs to her. So she is the one with the power of love who is acting as a savior. So from time to time she has come in different names and forms. And Sri Aurobindo says that this is not the only time she has come. Savitri and Satyavan are not just symbols, not just an allegory, but they are conscious beings and forces who continue to come and help mankind to show the pathways of immortality. Like a perfect gentleman, Sri Aurobindo would not say that me and the Divine Mother are also, we are the original Savitri and Satyavan, but taken to its utmost possibility. Meaning thereby, this time, the Divine Mother has come with the full manifestation. So that was a partial manifestation. The victory was that Satyavan comes back. So love compels death to change. That is something tremendous. But this is the beginning of the project. So project must end, some point it must reach to a grand culmination. And that is what the Divine Mother and Sri Aurobindo accomplish. that they take this project and take it to a grand culmination. It's not just one Satyavan, it's a collective emancipation of mankind to escape from the law of death. This is what is important. So, what is the law of death? Sri Aurobindo reveals to us in this entire book, wonderful book. And he goes step by step through each book. We see each book is a theme by itself. So, in one book, there are many books. So, the first book is the book of beginnings, where we see he introduces us to Savitri and Ashupati. So, Ashupati is as we see in the original story, he is the one who brings down the Divine Mother. So, he is the strong forerunner, Tapasvi, as the name suggests, Ashupati. So, he is of the horse, which is power, force. So, he is the one who, by the force of tapasya, concentrated spiritual endeavor. That's how Sri Aurobindo beautifully defines tapasya. Tapasya has nothing to do with any external things. It is the force of concentrated spiritual energy or endeavor. That is sadhana, that is tapasya. Concentrate your effort in the direction of spiritual upliftment, ascension, and that becomes tapasya. So he engages in this tapasya. So his beginning of tapasya is also described in Book of Beginnings. So first two cantos introduce us to the day when Satyavan must die. So it's the beginning of that day. In Book 1, Canto 2, we see Savitri's advent. So we have this as the story of the Divine Mother. So he introduces us to Divine Mother, why she has come, what is her mission. So we see this in Canto 1 and Canto 2. What is the issue? So he introduces us again to the basic issue. So the issue is whether man should remain forever subject to the law of karma as it is understood, which restrains us either from both sides. Law of karma works both ways. It restrains in us the titan, but also the god. Because in both extremes we go beyond the dual framework of good and bad. So it restrains us. But man's spirit has to engage, enter into a wider expansion. How is it possible? So this is the law of karma. But there is something greater than the law of karma, which Savitri brings out. It is the soul's choice. The soul in man is greater than his fate. Meaning thereby, we can undo all these things if we can bring out the secret deity in the cave. So while, as long as we are living by the mind, life, body and mistake them to be ourselves, we are subject to the mechanical law. But the day we discover our soul, we can overpass the law. We can accept it or refuse it. No, now how can we overpass the law? What is so magical about this little thing in the heart cave? Well, because this is the connecting point with the Supreme Mother. So the moment one touches this, one can do it even with the mind, little bit change can come, sometimes interventions can come. But here this is the direct connection, hotspot to the Divine Mother. And if one can discover it, then miracle becomes the common rule and nothing is impossible anymore. So we are introduced to that. Then of course the story goes in flashback and we are introduced to Ashupati and his yoga. So we have these three wonderful cantos in Book 1. Canto 3 is where yoga of the king, first step of yoga is freedom from ignorance. All talk about cellular sadhana, supramental yoga has no meaning. If we are still ignorantly believing that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this life, I am this emotion, there is no way we can talk about all those things. They are wonderful things to remember. But the first step is freedom from ignorance. Now for Ashupati, the process is not described. Why? Because he is a chosen one. So Ashupati's yoga, what he does is not described. He is someone who has been chosen. Sometimes the inexpressible mystery chooses a human vessel of descent. That's how he is described. So he is chosen one and rapidly, he has already arrived at the high frontiers of yogic endeavor in some past life. And he is here now where the divine is going to use him to unlock a mysterious door. But first step is freedom from ignorance. Freedom from ignorance means that we no more identify this flow and flux of nature as myself. We discover the secret soul within and the self above. So all that which traditional yogas so much speak about is described in the Canto 3. And then Canto 4, when we do that, then the world changes. So the first change that comes is just by the discovery, we see things differently. There is a reversal of consciousness. We discover secrets that the mind cannot know. We discover secrets that the heart cannot surmise. We discover secrets that the senses cannot grasp. We discovered secrets that our passionate life, struggling and suffering and praying and baffled against his hopes, cannot even imagine. So we have the secret knowledge. Shobindra is just giving it to us. Take it. Because it's secret to the senses and the mind, but known to the self above and within. So that's why it is secret knowledge. So all that is discovered, we have already spoken about, number of discoveries. Just this one canto is enough to overtop all the discoveries that we can imagine made so far, because there are in it already hints of the future. Then comes Canto 5. After this discovery, after the self-realization, Ashupati has this aspiration that no, it is not enough. There must be something greater. What is this plan? So he begins to experience something which no yogis have experienced. A vast descent of higher and higher states. And he discovered the possibility of conquering death. He discovered the possibility, time lying below his feet, Trikal Darshan, many other powers, forces, capacities, vistas of knowledge, sun belts of knowledge, moon belts of delight. He starts discovering them, that there is a greater supernature, higher supernature that awaits us. And this struggling inferior nature is not the only mode in which we can operate. There is a greater supernature and it's waiting for its hour for us to embody. So Ashupati has now a choice. Either he goes ahead, embodies that greater supernature, or he says, no, I'll discover it for all. So he makes that choice that no, I will not alone for myself, because now his being is enlarged. He cannot say that only my mukti, my transformation, my evolution, all that has gone. So in book 2, we have Ashupati traveling through the worlds to discover as a representative of humanity. And in that he sees all the stages through which humanity has passed, earth has passed. So Traveler of the Worlds is a book which describes about all the different lokas in detail. But particularly the focus is on the worlds from matter. In Vedas we know about the Tribhuvan, Trilok, which is the worlds of matter, life and mind. And then we talk about the spirit. But Sri Aurobindo says that between the world of mind and the divine, there are several other layers. All these are described at great length. So in Book 2, Canto 1, he describes the overview, the whole ladder. He is now looking at the entire panorama of all these multiple interlacing worlds. It's a tremendous discovery and fascinating journey he takes us through. An odyssey of odysseys, where we encounter different worlds, their beings, their energies, their impacts upon us, how they act, how they influence earth nature, how they have done something in our evolutionary process, how they continue to exist and linger in us. All these he describes. So book 1, book 2, Canto 2, he first describes that behind this gross physical, there is a subtle physical, the true physical, which we don't even know. So it describes that plane and its impact upon earth. In all the planes he will describe. Then running through book 2, Canto 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, he describes the vital worlds. Because these are the worlds, life force is everywhere. So he starts with glory and fall of life. Life's origin is in the divine. But as it comes down and down, it enters into the nether deeps. Then he describes all these worlds one by one. The little life, then their godheads. So behind the energies, the little godheads, entire map, these godheads are, we can look upon them. They are ultimately, in India we have this conception of so many million gods, because the one god brings out many aspects, and each aspect goes further and multiplies into, if we can look at this whole thing like a big well-run company or whatever. So you have the CEO. CEO deputes 4 main managers, production manager and quality control manager, and knowledge, so somebody will think about knowledge, and the last one who is the works in charge. So these managers then further hire there are different little sub-managers in each one. Then each one has a team. So like that, the entire thing. Now the team, the last person in the team is just doing the job appointed. He doesn't understand the larger picture. As you rise up the scale, you discover the larger picture. So we have these godheads. These godheads are like, for instance, there are godheads of the little life. Their task is, as mother describes at one place, sometimes they sometimes create mischief, sometimes they are benevolent. They would pull mother's frog to tell her that, the milk is boiling. At another place, they throw stones. Sometimes they can manufacture nice things and bring you. It's their task. So there are also these spirits which will create fire, rain, all these energies. And the Godhead behind it. They don't know why they are there. They don't care actually. They just do whatever is given and we become their instruments, puppets. And so long as we choose to remain their puppets, life will be incoherent. That's how he describes. So we have these Godheads and the kingdom. Then there is a greater life. A life which is, from the heart starts, finer emotions, imaginations, the artistic life, the life where there is music, poetry, all these things, but still vital, but something uplifted. Not just the lower life which is confined to food, progeny and sleep. That's how the lower life is. It's a higher life which brings in something higher and sublimer. So this he describes in the greater life. Now greater life is very fascinating. It's here that you have those sublime impulses, source, imaginations, wishes, hopes, dreams. But it doesn't manifest. That is the problem. So Sri Aurobindo, when Ashupati travels through this world, he says, why this life is rising like this toward the heights? Why is it blocked? What is preventing it from taking that leap? And then he goes downward. There is somebody who is holding the wings, who is holding the legs, so the bird can span the wings. So we can take the little and greater life is the little when the wings are still not free to fly. Then the wings are free to fly, but the legs are chained. So you can fly only up to a limit. So where is it chained? So there he descends into night and sees at the other end of things the forces of falsehood, division, darkness, inconscient. It won't allow you to fly beyond a point. It will allow you to imagine. It says imagine, hope, fine. You can hope, imagine, wish, all that you do. But I am going to pull you when I am going to pull you. That's the end of the story. That's how it tries. So he knows it can't be done by this wish fulfillment. So then he goes further after these two cantos where darkness, descent into darkness. Then he meets, after one has gone through this darkness, then for a moment there is respite in the paradise of the life gods, which most religions, when they talk about heaven, Jannat, it is this paradise. That's where you find all these, nice dancing damsels and nice lovely mountains, hillocks to rest, things to the Puranic heavens, vital heavens. So those who have battled with the night, that is the original meaning of jihad. Not this. This is darkness incarnate. But if you have battled with the night truly against the darkness, you deserve a place for some time because you have been wounded. So you go to these places and you are allowed to rest, relax, respite, hear some nice music, nice beings, energies, and then you have to come back. That's how the Gita says that you go to those heavens and then you come back. In certain religions, it is the final. But in Sanatana Dharma, it was always a stopgap. You have to come back because you have not completed the evolution. So he comes back. So what is the next level? Is the little mind. So little mind is now, when we are driven by life, we are driven as if by an impulse, by force. That's what life is. When life drives us, people are led unquestioningly for good or evil. But then with the mind, there comes this thought, why, should I not, choices, all this starts. So little mind still is a slave to life, though it slowly begins to free itself. So little mind is physical mind tied to clockwork, mechanisms, habits, senses. Vital mind, mind that imagines, gives forms to imaginations. And then we have the rational mind, which is the utmost that most human beings go. So rational mind tries to tell life, fly, but not so far, because your wings will get burned. So that's how we have the rational mind. Then obviously there is no answer here. So in Sri Aurobindo yoga, one climbs beyond it. So he reveals in the greater mind, the mind of the seers, sages, he reveals the higher triple stair. It is still the mind, but when we read, most yogas, they use the word spiritual for these layers of the mind. And there is a meaning behind it. Spiritual, the word in Sanskrit is adhyatma, that which stands above this little self. So when we go to regions of greater mind, which is the higher triple stair. The lower triple stair of the mind is physical, vital and rational mind. The higher triple stair is the higher mind, where we suddenly start looking things as symbol. Illumined mind, where we see them with a new light. Intuitive mind, where we have flashes through which we can see large spaces of things and in large spaces of time. So intuition begins to become natural and normal. So this is where the seers can climb. And there you can see somewhat into the future, somewhat into the past, into the depth of things. But he goes still further. So then we have these two very interesting cantos, in the self of mind, and we have heavens of the ideal. So now beyond the intuitive mind is entering the overmind. In the lower ranges, you can approach this way and it will appear like nirgun. So in the self of mind. And if you go this way, other way, you will see as many qualities, each expressing as gods. So we have this description of the overmind from the lower ranges. Heavens of the ideal and in the self of mind. Still further, we have the world soul. If one still goes further, one enters into the cosmic consciousness. And still further, one discovers that greater knowledge is where the overmind is just entering towards the supramental transcendent planes. So that's what we see described. It's a fascinating journey about all the worlds. If one wants to know, this book is all sufficient. But what is there beyond the cosmos, beyond the manifested worlds? What is the origin, the transcendent, the supreme? So in book 3, the book of the Divine Mother, we see Ashupati entering into that which is beyond all that is created. In fact, anything that is created goes there and drops away. Because it's the origin. Nothing made could live. So that is initially the pursuit of the unknowable. It cannot be known unless we cross this border. And the problem is, if we cross this border, we can't come back. This is the challenge for Ashupati. So anyways, he enters and he discovered that great Purusha, the being out of whom all has emerged, the unknowable. And then, still there is no answer to his hope, because there everything is annulled. Even creation and cosmos are annulled. You can't go there and say there is problem in life. There is no life. You can't say, sir, I have a doubt I want to ask, because you have no mind left to ask. If you aspire, say, what is aspiration? Sir, my individual soul. What is your individual soul? It has all come, absorbed into me. So it is that profound, tremendous state which some of the rishis glimpsed from afar and used it as a door of final entry. But Sri Aurobindo is Sri Aurobindo. So he has taken our agony and anguish. The ascending triangle is he and the descending triangle is he and the meeting point is he. So he is wondering what to do next. But he is holding his aspiration. He is not annulling himself. Nor is he returning back empty-handed and becoming a master. I know the way up to the unknowable. Come, come, come. No. So he is waiting on the words where all fails. Extinction is the only thing left. But he says, I have not come here for extinction. I want to fulfill. And then, as a result of this aspiration which can stay there even in that words of extinction, we have this wonderful canto adoration of the Divine Mother, a heart from spaces wide and bare, a burning love from wide spiritual founts. Suffering was lost in her immortal smile. One came, absolute and infinite, and took all nature and world and soul. Then he discovered the real meaning, because she is the one who has impelled creation. So he says, the moment he sees her, he knows that I am at the right spot. And she draws him, knows his aspiration. So in Canto 3, Book 3, she shows him the original plan. Original plan is wonderful. He sees the blueprint, which even greater mind rishis can't see. He says, oh my God, this is what creation is meant to be. Now he is even more keen. So then, Canto 4, the Divine Mother says, I know why you have come. You are a strong, oh strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. But no soul is thy companion in the light. Alone thou standest at the eternal doors. Nobody is asking this. You are the only one. People don't want all this. People want roti kapda makan. What are you trying to? You have reached, I can give you, but don't ask for others. So he says, Mother, how am I going to, after this, go back and live? He says, you live as a master, the time will come when things will happen. You keep this flame alive, this is your work through the aeons. One day it will happen. Above blind fate and the antagonist powers, moveless there stands a high transcendent will. To its omnipotence leave thy works results. All things shall change in God's transfiguring hour. What you have seen, it will happen. After 10,000 years, maybe few pralayas, what does it matter? But Ashupati says, Mother, pralaya may mean nothing here, but there it is everything. I have come as the representative of an ignorant, erring, suffering, struggling, blundering humanity. My spirit's liberty I am asking for everyone. And yes, I understand that this is not the time, but what is time? You stand above it, as if time dare not open its heart to God. In that case, why don't you come and change things? And then she says, O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law. Then she grants him the boon that I will come down and a seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, a branch of heaven transplant to human soil. Nature shall overleap a mortal step, and fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. So she comes down. So this is part 1. Then part 2 we have again the book of birth and quest. The Divine Mother is on earth. Now this book, if one reads, one will understand all the mystery of the avatar. Through the Divine Mother, she is the avatar who has taken a human body. She is not a struggling soul from below. So she is the Divine Mother who takes a human body. When the avatar assumes a human body, he brings something along with him. But it is concealed carefully. And he has taken a human body. Now there is a problem. Nature begins to react. It knows it's like a little radiation point. So, nobody knows, but nature begins to respond to it in weird ways. You see, when avatars come, there are revolutions, 2 great wars, because the vital forces knew they have got something which we don't have. So the nature goes into an upheaval. That's how we see Krishna's advent and Rama's advent. Suddenly, before that, it begins to go into an upheaval. But that new consciousness, the avatar has come to integrate. So first, with that new consciousness, we see first is the book of the birth of the flame, then the childhood and growth of the flame. She has to grow gradually, the mind, vital has to develop within her, and with that she has to integrate this new light, new consciousness. So we see that in mother's life, it's the story of the mother. So we see that she integrates all this with it and she grows. Her mind, her life at least can integrate this new consciousness, seeking to now manifest. And then we have the call to the quest. Now she must fulfill the mission. Avatar must find who is suited for the work. Now there has to be a sample representative humanity. So call to the quest and then the quest. So she undertakes a journey to look for those whom she will ensnare with her charm of love and bring them towards the new creation. So in book 5, the book of love, wonderful book, she goes far and wide destined meeting place. We don't know when the divine will seize upon us. He is not respecter of our human laws. I went to this holy place and I felt very nice. He is capable of coming in the battlefield, catching us by the collar and saying, "Come with me." He loves that. Or traveling through Kishkinda as if he is needing help and pick up Hanuman as his main agent. He doesn't care that, I'll go to holy place and convert. See, Rama goes through all these holy places. He listens to them nicely. But who are the ones he picks up? Hand-picked. So Savitri goes far, the destined meeting place, where we are introduced to Satyavan. Who is waiting there? Who can become that first sample? So that too is, again, both are Sri Aurobindo, Ashwapati and Satyavan. The Lord has become Satyavan. He has to show the way. He has to play both the roles. And Savitri chooses him. And then we have Satyavan and Savitri. They get married and they come back. And then the book of Fate tells us all about the law of karma from the deepest, most profound, from every dimension. Every question that one can imagine has been asked in that book. So book 6, Canto 1 is the word of fate, where in Ashwapati's palace, Narad says, "This is a wonderful boy. You can't find him on earth. After all, the Supreme Lord has become this." But you know what? Earth cannot hold this kind of wonder and beauty for long. That's how he describes. A vase, fragile vase, is like a perfume, heavenly perfume in a fragile vase. His body can't hold it. He won't live long. After 1 year, he is going to die. So he gives us also secrets there also of karma. Many of these deaths are not because of some bad karma, young death. It's also because sometimes a consciousness which has developed beyond a point wants to take a leap, but the body is not capable, so it changes over. That is actually the real logic of death. He says, "I can't help it. This is the truth." So Savitri takes the challenge, but before that, or just after that, she says, "I am going to accept the challenge of fate." So the queen says, "What is this kind of fate? Why do good people suffer?" Well, everybody suffers. Good people are not the only guys who suffer. And let's not dramatize good people suffer. Good people also suffer. But actually, if you are good, it may look like suffering, but often there is a cushion from inside. You sleep peacefully. So, anyways, we'd like to dramatize good people suffer. She asked these questions, and in book 6, Canto 2, everything about fate one ever wanted to know is there. There are several places where Sri Aurobindo reveals secret of fate. But there we find in packed, terse sentences and passages, profound revelations. So now she is told that, this is fate. Savitri has understood if she has to conquer fate, you cannot conquer by wishful thinking. You can sometimes, Arth Prarthana, divine intervention can take place and change things. But that is not called conquering fate. So in book 7, she undertakes yoga. So she undertakes yoga because she knows this and this way alone fate can change. And we have that wonderful description. First part, how does her yoga begin? Like all of us, many of us, the joy of union, the problem of heart's grief. Nothing lasts here, nothing is permanent. So she goes through that pain that human beings go through. But unlike us who break down, who complain, who give up, she says, okay, if this be so, I must conquer it. And then book 2, we have this parable of the search of the soul, where she understands how the soul is developing through all these several, matter, then bird and beast and plant, and how it reaches a point, and finally it must emerge and take charge of life. All this she sees. And then, of course, she starts entering into the inner countries. As she enters into the inner countries, she discovers all the obstacles, first obstacle, physical world, Ashwapati, but in a different way. Here we see what is actually doable for us. You enter into, first problem is the body, it doesn't let us enter. So people keep asking what is within, what is within. You can't mentalize it, go within, meet the challenges, obstacles, then only the within will. There is no other way. So the physical doesn't allow easily. It has to be more obstinate than the difficulty. Then comes the vital world. It gives all kinds of magical experiences, visions, voices. Oh, I have found God. No, no, hold on. Those visions and voices start suggesting that you are great, you are an avatar, you have gone beyond. They can give all kinds of suggestions. You have gone beyond the masters. That is the kind of suggestion these stupid fellows can give. Oh, yes, my yoga is complete. Now I have to become a teacher. so, so then the mental world, where we get those false credos, belief systems, philosophical systems, religions, in which we get trapped. So Savitri says, no, I am seeking my secret soul. So she goes further, and then we see in Canto 4 the triple soul forces. Before we find the soul, we discover all this triple mode of nature, Sattva, Rajo, Tama, has its origin in the soul. We see them in their pristine purity as the great goddesses, feminine energies which spring from the soul, but when they enter into the ego, they are usurped by the titans and they become their opposite. So after these triple feminine energies emerging from the soul, triple soul forces, each of them says, you be here, rest here, become, I am your soul. But she says no. And she goes still further. So we have Canto 5 where Savitri discovers her soul. You have to be so humble, so patient, not stop at any halfway home, persevering. Then one discovers. When she discovers her secret soul, then she discovers that what is the original script of her destiny, because there is the central being, the Jivatma above, and we have a beautiful fusion of Chaitya Satta and the Jivatma above, the central being, one struggling here and the other above, and the two meet, and then we have the description. With this meeting, all these centers begin to open, because now they say, oh good, there is a victory. Now we can open in fullness. Otherwise, in an egoistic man, if this opens, it is disastrous. It will turn him into a titan. These Kundalini energies, everybody who talks about Kundalini, be careful. Kundalini can work both ways. It's like a serpent hissing. If you have fear, you are gone. If ambitious, then it will take us on the tracks of tremendous ambition. Abnormal urges, impulses will begin to rise. First thing is soul. Then naturally it opens, because that's the work one is here to do. Spontaneously it awakens from above downwards, and she discovered this great tremendous power, mighty mother. Then she enters into nirvana and the all-negating absolute. One has to still go, become a complete self-annulment. All this has to be offered to the One Supreme. Now then one is ready for the work for which one is assigned. So when Savitri offers all this, she does not experience void, but she sees the omniscient Supreme in everything. She becomes everything. So we have the cosmic consciousness. She is given her mission. Now all beings are her being, or her being has become the life of the bird, the beauty of the rose, the gleaming of the dawn, the subconscious, this life of trees and animals and human aspiration. Space and time is she, and beyond space and time is he. So here ends part 2, and then comes part 3, penultimate part, book 8, single canto, Death in the Forest. Now we are brought back to the day when Satyavan must die. Savitri goes along with Satyavan to the forest. Death comes, but now Savitri is armed with the fire of yoga. By the power of yoga, she follows death. And then we enter into the book of death, where death takes her to its home, darkest home, in the den, where for a moment she gets those ideas that, atonement, sin, all that originates from there. The sense of sin, atonement, all the falsehoods, deceptions, that's what is epitomized there. You forget that you are a soul, you have the divine grace, everything is forgotten there, hope is gone. So she travels towards the black void and then journey in the eternal night. So she goes there, and that's the home of death. So he says, oh, you will come. Do you dare to come? Savitri dares to come. And then, because she dares to come and suddenly hope is there, death starts feeling something is amiss. Who can have hope in my domain? This is utter darkness. This is my area. How can somebody love, hope, talk about God? So he tries to confuse her. There is no God, utter denial. Who is this God you are imagining? So she says, you are imagining a false deity. You believe you are God because that's how here you believe. But do you know who has given you this figure? My Lord has given. And then we see that again we enter into book 10 where we have where death takes Savitri through the book of double twilight. So there is the twilight of the heavenly, the ideal, where all these beautiful impulses come to us. The urge for immortality, love that will last forever, the Godward impulses, they come from here. So for a moment death is quiet. He says, all this is coming from here. But let me tell you my gospel. So there is the gospel of death. He says, all these gods, no, they are just cheating you. This is not real. Don't believe in it. There is no real God. And then slowly he begins to change. Because Savitri, there is the gospel of death and the vanity of the ideal, then the debate of love and death. Savitri tells death, look here, I know God. Why? Because I have become one with Him. So he says, oh, don't say all this. God is something impersonal. If at all there is, He is a witness. He has nothing to do with earth. If you really want to go to God, leave Satyavan, leave this world. Why are you, all the ascetics have done it. Why are you forcing your will upon me? So she says, because I am commissioned by the Lord. Oh, no, this is all human emotion. You go back, you will find another person. Get married to him. That's what happens to everybody. But Savitri says, my love is not a hunger of the heart. It's not the craving of the flesh. I know death, you don't know this love. But there is such a love and I am here to embody it. So then finally death says, okay, you seem to be debating with me. Come, I'll show you what fate I give to those who aspire like this. And he drags her to or rather, he carries her. They both go together to the twilight of the earthly real. He says, see, before you there were prophets who spoke about eternal love. See, they are frozen in time. Philosophy, systems, see what I have done to them. Freeze time. They were great in its own time. But they have become themselves a cause of great destruction. So Savitri listens to all this and replies one by one. Finally death says, oh, I can't contain more than this. You have the knowledge. But do you have the power? I have the power. Power is with me to take away the human soul. Then there is that beautiful thing, the incarnation thrust aside its veil. She says, well, it's not just knowledge, I understand. I have the power and the mandate. And death is, for the first time, he is meeting his own origin. His origin is Surya. So that's how. And she transmutes him. Light courses, burns his frame, his formidable shape that human fear had given him. All that she licks away. It's a beautiful description to be read on Durga Puja and the Vijay Dashmi. So it is the victory that is established. So death helplessly releases Satyavan. He can't do anything and he runs away. But then that is one thing. Who gave this law is the divine, supreme himself. He has released. He said, oh, okay, Baba, this is too much. I don't know who you are. I might as well save my own life. But automatically Satyavan cannot come back because the law of death is also created by the Supreme. So we have book 11, the book of everlasting days. So you see its series, the black void, the eternal night, twilight, and the eternal day. So this is how the human journey goes. This is how evolution goes. Last is eternal day. She is face to face with the Supreme. And she says, I want to change this law. She says, do you know, Savitri, I know I can't refuse to you. You have reached so far, but do you know what it means? Again the same thing. Human beings, as such they think too highly of themselves in an egoistic state. The moment they become nearer to the gods, you know what confusion? Last time in Mahabharata, Sri Krishna had tried this. You know what is going to happen? There will be an unsettling of the law. One day it will happen, but why are you hastening? Too eager, too compassionate dawn. That's how he describes. And Savitri says, I keep my will to save earth and man. He even offers her, you come, you just want Satyavan. You and both Satyavan can live forever in the infinities of my unmanifested higher realms. Live forever. Boundless Satyavan, boundless Savitri. She says, no, I didn't come all this way for some conjugal joy. I have come because both of us have to work together for earth and humanity. Powerful lines. Earth is the chosen place of the heroic souls. Mother says that there are two kinds of souls. One which experience this world and its pain and want to escape. But others who enter into this zone, fight with falsehood and ignorance and death. They are the heroic souls. She says, I call them heroic souls. They have come here for that. And obviously with them there is a very special grace. That's what Divine Mother wants. She's not interested in another saint, sadhu, sannyasis. People used to be very excited when some saintly person came, yogi came, sannyasi came, and they would say, Mother, that story. And he said, Mother, he's a great yogi, he can meditate a lot. Mother said, yes, I know. He could travel into the Brahman realization. Mother says, yes, I could see. He's the only person who could follow me there. Another person, Mother, he meditates a lot. Yes, I'm aware of that. So Mother, it'd be so nice, no, if he becomes your disciple. Mother simply laughed. Sri Aurobindo was more forthright. When he was asked, I wish you had disciples like Swami Vivekananda. How nice. What kind of disciples you have? Like us, Kismat. And Sri Aurobindo says, Kismat, yes. So he has a laugh. He says, but it is doubtful if a Vivekananda would even want to take up this yoga. And if he took, the ordinary humanity will not show up. Because this is truth, consciousness. It will tear away every veil. We are being new made. So nothing we can hide in some corner. This is allowed. Mother, little bit anger. No, it's normal. He said something to me. I got angry, Mother. No, my child. Mother, this much imperfection chalega na? Perfect perfection. Everything threadbare, because that nothing made could live. Because every bit will have to be new. You can't allow a small little drop of poison because eventually it will corrupt everything. So when she assures, she says, I keep my will, then the Supreme gives the boon that, well, you have made the rarest of rare choice. None has made this ever. And therefore I must give you the highest of the highest boons. Ask. And she asked the boons for earth and mankind. And then we have that long passage. We read the divine, the Supreme. Everywhere there is the divine. But from his supreme status, he grants all that she has asked and he elaborates upon it, what it means, the entire, so we can call it as the book of future. What the future is going to be. And then after all that, we have book 12 where Savitri and Satyavan come back to earth, lead a happy life. So the story has a happy ending, but this story passes through death, the night of death. There is the struggle, the pang, the suffering, the challenge, and the victory in the tournament with death for the bending of the fierce bow. Now when Savitri comes as the Divine Mother, she says, no, I don't want my children to go through this tournament with death. So she wants to change and carry us through the sweet sunlit path. She doesn't want us to go through that. She knows what it means. But there is one condition. Satyavan did it then. When Savitri comes into his life, he says, I give myself completely to you. Will you descend and make my little home your dwelling place? And then when he is dying again, he says, you are the one to whom I am giving myself. I think if you are around me, death will not come near. So if we can do that grand act of surrender to her, it requires tremendous courage. Because surrender means very simply, my will is no more mine, but divine's. That is literally what baby cat means. Surrender is not I'll carry my life in my own way, but I have surrendered. What kind of surrender means? Like, when the soldiers surrender, they can't after that say, I want these privileges. No, you may get privileges, you may not get privileges. You have surrendered. It's not your business anymore. So when we surrender, it means literally at each moment, may your will be done and not mine. That's how the mother reminds us that let thy will be done and not mine. Last, if you see 70 or 72, that repeatedly she says, let thy will be done and not mine. Let thy will be done, let thy will be done, let thy will be done. Complete surrender right down to the very cells of the body she could make. After that, no more of fear, anguish, anxieties, trying our human ways to manipulate things. That surrender is not easy, but Satyavan has learnt his lesson and is giving it to us. So the project Savitri finds its grand culmination in fulfillment in Shobinda and the mother's life. What else is there? People ask, okay, but death is still there. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We have the talk at Auroville on the end of death. So we'll close with these lines, page 721, 722. First, Satyavan reveals the truth of Savitri. May this truth become our reality. Lay all on her. She is the cause of all. All the things that happen in life. Once we take it that it is the Divine Mother, then there is no more grudge, complaint, nothing. There is this beautiful acceptance and offering consecration to her with a aspiration. With her enchantments, she has twined me round. This is her initiation. No mantra diksha, tantra diksha, sparsha diksha. She enchants her. How we don't know. People often ask, what is the miracle that happens in Sri Aurobindo Ashram? Plenty happen, but one of them is, at least for some of us, we have not seen the mother with these physical eyes, but she has charmed us. God knows how. I never knew you can fall in such mad love with somebody you have never seen. And there are quite a few. I mean, it's the present generation. Okay, whatever be the past, leave aside that. With a charm. What is this charm? We don't know. Why she picked up? Don't know. Why we came? Only one answer, grace and love. And there is no logic to it, or if there is a logic, she knows the secret. So, with a charm, this is the Diksha. When mother was asked, how do we know we have been initiated? What does it mean? He says, when you recognize me, it means you are initiated. She will not let you recognize till she has decided. So he says, with her enchantments, she has twined me round. Behold, at noon, leaving this house of clay, I wandered in far off eternities, yet still a captive in her golden hands. I tread your little hillock called green earth, and in the movements of your transient sun, live glad among the busy works of men. She has done everything. I don't know how, what route she took me, I don't even remember what route. Only when I look back, I can say it was all her grace. But that moment, it was like death. It looks like some formidable shape. God knows what all came. And yet, I went through this. So, people often ask this question in the passing, couple of minutes. Oh, all this is fine, isn't it? No, this is not like, where is death? How is the dialogue? Some people even ask, how did the dialogue get recorded? I'll tell you, we record it all the time. Death speaks even now to us. How? By planting suggestions in the mind. There is no God. If He is there, why is this happening in my life? There is no ideal. It's a malady of the mind. There is no truth of love. Messer's death is at his worst best. Death is still speaking. We don't see. That's different. It's not necessary. Then what about Savitri's dialogue? Every time we have hope. Against the dire edge of destruction and extinction, Savitri is there. Every time something in our heart says, night is not our beginning nor our end, we came to her from a supernal light. By light we live, and to the light we go. Savitri is there within our hearts. That's how we have to understand these. If we have the vision, we'll see these things, but even otherwise, there is a way we can understand the entire dialogue and the entire converse with the gods, and which we find so often in Indian thought. And then another secret is revealed by these sages. What gleaming marvel of the earth or skies stands silently by human Satyavan to mark a brilliance in the dusk of eve when everything is failing and falling? She is enough. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. If this is she of whom the world has heard, we may say, this is she of whom Sri Aurobindo has said, of whom the world has heard, wonder no more at any happy change, each easy miracle of felicity, of a transmuting heart the alchemy is. What is impossible for her? Time, yes, that's okay. That's why she said endurance and faith, patience and perseverance. Let it take time. But what is impossible for the Divine Mother? So, and then the final secret is revealed by Savitri herself. Awaken to the meaning of my heart, that to feel love and oneness is to live. And this, the magic of her golden change, is all the truth I know or seek, O sage. So let me close with this passage, and after that we can have a short meditation. And then there are these two books to be picked up. There are two books, different books. One is a selection of Savitri, from passages from Savitri on the Divine Mother. And the other is a selection from Savitri, passages on the Lord. So glory of the Lord and glory of the Divine Mother. So it's for everyone. And please feel free to pick them up as prasad. So we'll close with this and then have the music for a minute or so. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. Hers is the mystery the night conceals. The spirit's alchemist energy is hers. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she, a power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of a difficult ascent, the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vast, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. All nature dumbly calls to her alone to heal with her feet the aching throb of life and break the seals on the dim soul of man and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. All here shall be one day her sweetness's home. All contraries prepare her harmony. Towards her our knowledge climbs, our passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clasp shall turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be one self with all through her. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind, silence the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. A vast surrender was his only strength. A power that lives upon the heights must act, bring into life's closed rooms the immortal's air, and fill the finite with the infinite. All that denies must be torn out and slain, and crush the many longings for whose sake we lose the one for whom our lives were made. Now other claims had hushed in him their cry. Only he longed to draw her presence and power into his heart and mind and breathing frame. Only he yearned to call forever down her healing touch of love and truth and joy into the darkness of the suffering world. His soul was freed and given to her alone. Om Anandamayi Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parami.